way too many people make decisions off of N of ones or N of twos.
Yeah,
And you
for
can't
sure.
do that. You got to get N's of 25, 30, 40, 50, whatever the number is. So if Jim is saying something and like, I haven't really heard of that before. But if Jim is saying something where 50 other people have said it, I'm like, okay, there's something here. And then all of a sudden you find out that Jim is complaining about wait times when he calls into tech support. And then you pull the data and saying, yeah, tech support wait times are not meeting our goal. Our goal is make it up 4 minutes. And people are having to wait for 12 minutes. Then you elevate it to your executive team and saying, is this what we want? Do we want 12 minutes? By the way, here's all the data. Jim plus 50 other people are saying that they're waiting on average for 10 minutes and they're hanging up. Then you got a problem to fix. That's where I think that I really you kind of start picking at the onion and you start peeling it back, and then you get to problems that you can solve that can impact your customer and your brand and your loyalty.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I remember this was probably 10, 11 years ago. There was one of our first customers, and big global company, huge. I think their numbers, well, they're top 10 in market cap right now. I'm not going to mention who they are. And they wanted us to run their global voice of customer program. We're like, okay, fine. So we're running it for them, and it was pretty good. And we ran it for like 4 years. By the second year, the end of the second year, their response rates had dropped off pretty significantly. And we're trying to do everything. So the customers don't know we're involved. They were transparent. We're just running the program for them. And so the CEO calls us up, like, hey, your system's not working right. We're seeing a pretty big drop in response rates. We used to get a ton. Now we're getting like half. And I said, yeah, we're seeing the open rates are still really high. Inboxing rates are really high. So it's kind of odd. Let's try some things up. And so I asked him, said, are you okay is if I email and do calls with, a dozen or so of your customers and just let them know, hey, XYZ company's actually been using our platform. I just want to understand how it's gone, just from like a generic usability perspective. And what I found to each one of them, to your point, Darrell, it probably wasn't 12 calls, maybe it was like 9 or 10, is they said, yeah, I'm like, yeah, the survey comes through, it looks fine, the feedback, it's whatever. It's not a technical issue. It's like, why am I going to spend 60 seconds or 2 minutes or 30 seconds to give them feedback when I hear nothing?
Yeah.
I don't know. Was my feedback valuable? What are you doing with it? Come back to me. Like, return and report, nothing. And so all of them said that exact same thing. So we took it to leadership and said, I didn't realize that y'all weren't doing anything with the data, that you were keeping it within a little team, and I don't know what you're doing. And then I come to find out that they would just do a quarterly little presentation, or MPS, or our CSAT, or whatever's this. Here's some things we need to work on. And it was a tiny part of the meeting, Darrell.
Yep.
It wasn't like a prominent thing.
Right.
And I started to contrast that with like Epic. And, I'm no super fan of Epic. I admire a lot of things they do. I don't think they're as good for healthcare as a lot of people think. But the thing that Epic does is, from the beginning, they obsess about the customer.
Yeah.
Obsess.
Right.
Because they realize if you lock down your customer base, you play super great defense.
Right.
Like we just saw in the Olympics. The U.S. beat Canada in gold because their goalie was out of his mind. Like everything, played brilliant defense.
And they won 100%. They won 100% on the penalty kill. I mean, yeah, they had this. They were doing the basics.
Yes, and that's what the best companies by far do, is they obsess about, to your point, the customer. Yeah. Because then the customer promotes you like crazy, and they're not out there trashing you. And so you're not having to play, while your marketing and sales is playing offense, they don't also have to play defense, because they're having to counteract all this negative stuff that's being shared with them. And so we had to start building in our platform like auto alerts that says if there's a bad score, you're going to get an email whether you want it or not, because you may not want to do the right thing, but we're going to try to have our platform make you look at the garbage that you're doing and hopefully take some sort of action. But it's too bad that it's a black hole.
Right. Right.
And it shouldn't be. It's like I checked the box. And so like to these customers that I was telling you about, I understood, like, if you're never going to do anything with the data, or at least I don't know of it, like, come back to me. Like once a year or twice a year, say, hey, thanks. Here's what we've heard from you and the rest of the customers. Here's what we're trying to do. At least I know I didn't waste my time.
Yeah, totally. And can you imagine if at the highest level, Judy calls up, make it up, Intermountain Health, and says to the CEO, hey, I just want to let you know, we received some feedback on our net promoter score that we let you down. And so I got my team looking into this to figure out how we can make it right. We don't need to give you all the details. Here's some of the information, but this has my visibility, and we're going to make sure that we make it right. I mean, to that point, I mean, people are going to be like, oh my God, the CEO is on top of this? And you know what? That's a phone call that would take, what, 3 minutes? You don't have to do a phone call. You can just do an email to the person and say, hey, by the way, FYI, I'm on it. I saw this, blah, blah, blah. Those things are so incredibly valuable.
Well, she does that. I know Judy and Carl, the kind of the two founders, they do calls with the leadership teams of every one of their customers a couple times a year, personal phone call. That is so different. And what's interesting, I'm glad you brought this up, because I've had two or three kind of like throw my hat moments where I just, after the call, I'm like, I can't believe I just heard it. And I brought up what you'd said. And I'm like, why aren't you doing a call, at least a call once a year with all your customers? Like, and they said, well, I'm too busy for that. Like, how would you expect? No one should be able to expect. I'm the CEO that I should have to do that. And I'm like, I'm not sure I'm hearing what I'm hearing. Am I really hearing what I'm hearing? Yeah. You're too important. You're too important to just do one call a year with all your customers. Well, we've got 1,000 customers. So I'm saying you're not doing all the calls at once. They're not an hour call. It's 15-minute calls. You should have a couple calls a day with your customers. Like then everything. You're sending a message that no one's below me. I care about you as a customer. It sends a message to the rest of your team, your company. Go, I don't want to get biblical. It's like, go and do that likewise, right? Like,
and going back to some of the stuff we talked about earlier, I'm not quite sure what everybody's dashboard is, and everybody probably needs to have a different dashboard. But to your point, I hope that senior leadership team knows, what are my top 10 revenue producing customers? What are my top growth, increase of revenue customers? What are my customers that have declined in revenue over the last 12 months, 12 months, 24 months? What are my most profitable customers? If you don't know those things, top 10. So I just went through top revenue, top growth, top decliners, and top profitability. Let's say that they're all unique, that there's nobody on the same four. So you got 40 different customers that you have to call because there's no duplications. How long would it take to call or email or build a relationship across 40 customers? Not that long.
No.
But how many people do it? Not enough.
Oh, it's so rare, Darrell. Like, I can honestly count on one hand of hundreds of companies I've talked to where except for the startups, so the small companies that only have a couple hundred employees, only got 100 customers or something like that. The second they get bigger and they got a couple hundred, it's gone. Like the CEO will do a call only if there's a major fire, or they'll meet them at a trade show or a user event. Then the rest of the time they're obsessed with raising money, hiring, doing press tours, talking to the street, all that kind of stuff. And then slowly but slowly, there's two key cohort groups that get ignored: the customers and the rank and file employees. They're almost like the unwashed masses, which is really odd in the dynamic. And that shouldn't be, but it really becomes that way.